and thank you so much for tuning in to our conversation today about suicide prevention for parents. My name is Amy Sayre. I am the Student Assistant Program Counselor at Shelburne Community School. I've been there, this is now my 4th year, and I'm having a conversation today with Debby Haskins, to my right here, who has been at the Center of Health and Learning for 22 years as a training specialist, and in the field of prevention for 30 years. And to her right is Rachel Petraska, who is the Shelburne Community School counselor and has been for 18 years, but a school counselor for longer than that. So I'm really excited to have this wealth of information and experience here to have this conversation to bring to you all about this really important topic. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today. So to start us off, Debbie, why do you feel like it's important for us to be having this conversation in a venue that parents are able to view privately and when they are able to have the time? Because we know it's really difficult for parents to find the time sometimes to do this learning on their own. So why are we here today, do you think?
Well, I think first off, most parents may be hearing the word suicide for the first time and they're thinking, I don't want to talk about this, and I certainly don't want to talk about it with my kids. And we know that that's actually a myth about that it's going to generate suicide. So just being comfortable with the word suicide, I think the reason this is so important is in Vermont, suicide is the second leading cause of death for our youth, 15 to 18 years old. And we also know that as youth age and age out of school systems, it's still a concern until they're in their mid-20s when they don't have the resources. So we're talking today just really to be able to open up the conversation and feel comfortable, if you will, about the word and about understanding what suicide is and how we can prevent it. That's the most important thing that we really want parents to walk away with is suicide is preventable in most cases. There are many underlying factors, not just one.
And so let's talk then about those risk factors. Either of you feel free to share. What do you see as being the risk factors for suicide and suicidal thoughts and so forth? Well,
I think when young people are growing up, there are a lot of risk factors in general. And sometimes they feel the same, meaning they struggle with their self-esteem, they struggle with their friends. So there are those kinds of social risk factors. But when we talk about suicide, we're often talking about something much more serious, of course, and that's depression that goes left untreated. We're talking about possible substance abuse. We're talking about moving a lot. We're talking about living with crisis. So I want to kind of step back for a moment and talk about when we think about mental health. And you'll notice I didn't talk about mental illness. So I want to talk a little bit about when our youth are healthy, they often face crises, but the difference is they actually have solutions. They know where to go for help. They might not know the answer, but that they know how to get where they need to go by asking adults, askable adults. So when I think about mental health, I think about that it's balance and it's about seeking help. So even if I have a lot of risk factors in my life or crisis is going on, I know that I can go to someone that I trust, whether it's you folks in schools or whether it's my parents or someone else in the community.
Right, and Rachel, I know together we talk a lot about trusted adults with our kids in the Shelburne Community School. You want to tell folks at home what
we do. That's one of our big things, starting with kids when they're enter our school in kindergarten is making sure that they can identify who their trusted adults are in their life. And we talk about that can be anybody. It can be someone in school. It can be a counselor like Amy and I. It could be a teacher. It could be a former teacher. It could be a coach. It could be someone in a faith community. It could be anybody. And we try to really broaden it because we know there's all different types of families these days and all different types of needs that kids have. And so we really try to broaden who those trusted adults are and making sure that they can identify who those trusted adults are so they really can say, when they're in that moment of being in a crisis or needing help, that they can say, I know who that trusted adult is. It's right here.
Yeah. I want to get back to your question about why this is such an important topic, because all kids have feelings, and sometimes those feelings escalate to a place where they think they can't solve them. But we know that mental illness is a real predictor untreated mental illness. And one of the things that I think, if you're at home listening, you're thinking, my son or daughter couldn't possibly have, or my child couldn't possibly have a mental illness. And mental illness is really much more than just feeling sad, which 1 in 5 of our middle school students here in this district talk about feeling sad more than 2 weeks. So what am I going to do with that sadness? And all of the people that Rachel talked about are people that we really want to think about, because they're puzzle pieces.
Right, and our kids, when we do have that conversation about trusted adults, are talking about the adults that are willing to sit with them, to look them in their eye, to listen without judgment. And I wonder if you could talk more about those, the listening skills that are involved, because this is a topic that makes people nervous to have a real candid conversation with. So what do you both see as the skills involved with being a good listener?
Yep. Well, I think the first thing is certainly to actually shut off technology. So it's whether it's to set the phone down or not be in front of a screen, is I can't really listen to what's going on if I don't have good eye contact. And I think a mistake that I've learned over the years as a parent is listening isn't talking. It's an L word, and it's listening, and there's a reason for that, is that I need to hear how you feel. And we know from survivors that when we talk about how we feel and people are really listening, that helps ease our pain. Whether you give me a solution or not, it isn't about the solution, it's about, wow, she's really listening and she cares, and you're asking me questions. How do you feel? And if you're trained, you know how to ask that difficult question. Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? And if so, we need to get you some help. And a lot of times for young people, they will deny that they feel that they need help. They will tell you that it needs to be a secret, all of which I can just go back and say, I really care. It sounds like you're struggling. We need to find you someone. And that's where your resources come in, whether it's your school, first off, or whether it's your pediatrician or a community member that you feel comfortable talking with. But asking the question is really important, because it might be the first time that your young person is willing to just kind of put those feelings out there.
Right, and school counselors are a great resource for parents, because many parents it would not be abnormal to feel uncomfortable with this conversation, and so school counselors are in every single community to be able to have that conversation with parents, right? I know you've had to do it before. It wouldn't.
Absolutely, we're always happy to have that conversation, for sure, to support families. That's why we're part of our role. Debbie, can you talk a little bit about asking the question, because we talk about that in school and we're doing the prevention program, which we can get to, but can you talk about that piece? Because I know when Amy and I have had our parent evenings in the past, parents are afraid to ask the question because they are fearful that that's going to put an idea in their child's head, and that that's going to lead to something else. It's like to them it's like a leading question. I'm afraid to ask the question.
Right. And the research clearly shows that it actually is not a leading question, that it's a relief question, is that young people are thinking about it and talking about it and reading about it and seeing it on their Facebook pages. And so it's in the media, it's everywhere. So to have an open, frank conversation is, what do you think about that? What did you hear? And actually opening up that dialogue really gives young people the ability to think, well, I didn't think that, or maybe I'm just wondering about that. It gives them permission to actually talk about something that's forbidden, but yet it's everywhere. It's in the news. People see it in the movies. So how can I open that door to not normalize suicide, but normalize the feelings? Different conversations.
Yeah.
It takes practice.
It does take practice.
It does take practice. It's a hard question, I get that. And so that's why you want to get them to somebody that if I don't feel comfortable, that I can call you, or I can call someone that I think would really be that benefit, be able to ask that question.
Yeah. I know with even our 5th graders this year, Amy and I have been talking about the fact that we've now using the suicide prevention. This is the prevention program that we use. You've gotten a letter about it from our school. This is the Hazelden Lifeline Suicide Prevention curriculum. And we've been using this since we were trained by Debbie back in 2013, 2014. This year we've pushed down to 6th grade and into 5th grade. And talking to 5th graders for the first time about this important topic, they when you ask them, have you heard the word suicide? All hands go up. Do you know what it is? All hands go up. And the interesting thing too is that they've been able to differentiate. Talking about it doesn't mean that I feel like I want to hurt myself, but it's okay to have the conversation, and we really are trying to decrease that stigma, because it is okay to talk about it.
It is.
Thank you both so much for talking with me today about this important topic, and to you for tuning in to us today. Please make sure you reach out with any questions that you may have. We're also going to be doing 3 more sections similar to this one on the topic of suicide prevention and the conversation that you could have with your own young people in your life. So thank you so much, and we look forward to speaking with you more.